Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson, and this is Island Update. Today is May 28th, Thursday, and I'm on the 2020, and I'm on the island of Great Cranberry, Maine. And I'm doing videos. I have been doing videos since mid-March. Just to recap for you, based on things that I've observed and noticed about the island and the ways of the people, the natural changes, the national challenges, the state issues, that we're dealing with now. And I'm just using this as a log. I felt comfortable doing a daily log, whether it's sort of monumental, big topic stuff, or just stuff that's, hitting me of a concern to me that I think that it's worth talking about and raising as topics. So I have taken on a few controversial topics that have been on my mind. There were so many disputes about, different ways of approaching the coronavirus, and there still are. And my latest thing was err on the side of caution. I think it's safe to say that while it's still around, the whole mask and social distancing thing is here to stay for now. So talking today about habits and habitual practices and customs that we like to do and how hard it seems to be to change those, I think is very apropos for what we're dealing with on our island too. I have been writing a poem. I'm saying I'm writing it because it's still undergoing revision, but it's a takeoff on the Rachel Field poem, Cranberry Road. And it's all about how, it's a short poem, but Rachel Field's written it. I was talking about it yesterday, but it's about how, people want to come back to that road and see the things they're accustomed to seeing. And I think that the appeal of that poem, speaks to a lot of people, that you want to be accustomed to things that feel good and regular, and you can count on them to give you a good feeling. So you can relax. You feel like you've come to a safety zone, or a place where you're, it's familiar and you know how to be there. You know who you are when you're there. I think that it's difficult once we get into certain practices. We can fall into bad patterns a lot easier than we can get ourselves out of them. And by bad, I mean ones that once you're in there, you tend to just go to it as, because you think it's got to be, you've got to have it to feel okay. You've got to do a certain thing to feel okay. That's how addictions start. My dogs have a thing where they're comfortable using the pee mat, which is over there on the floor. And here they are. Let's see if you can see them. Well, they're down there. I don't know if you can see them actually. Yeah. They don't, so anyway, they don't really want to change their way of doing things. They want to go outside. We've been walking every day. And this morning we've been waiting till they use the mat in a new place. They don't want to change their pattern. They'd rather do it in an old place where it's not appropriate for me to have them go. So just because I'm comfortable with a certain thing doesn't mean they're going to go along with it in their own way. They're willing to wait all day, apparently, before they're sitting on each other, just trying to block their I don't know what they're doing. At any rate, they're sitting sitting on each other. So I know how it is to resist change because it's not familiar. It's not comfortable. I've moved several times. I'm more comfortable with moving than most people because I've done so much of it. My family was an Air Force family. But at any rate, I like to move because I'm comfortable more with change. In fact, my business was landscape design for several years, since 1991, was talking to people about change, about how they can incorporate change into their lives and make it work for them. So I have a positive attitude towards change for the most part, but things that come up, so out of the blue, new things like censorship on Facebook has been a big change recently. They're calling some of my my posts false narratives or partly false or whoever. And the explanation for this in the Washington Post and the Post recently was that, as they put it, credible, and I'll put that in quotes, credible news outlets have reported that the information that was in my post was not considered valid. And I think that whether a person, an algorithm is probably derived, somehow to just pick certain words up. It doesn't really matter if my intent is to bring about two different points of view or 2 points of view under contention before an ultimate true or false has been determined. Because sometimes if you have considerable interest in something, people are going to want to have the right to consider it, whether you want to deny them that right or not. And until people really are convinced by their own common coming to terms with it, their own, enough people have talked to them about it and they've thought about it, whatever their threshold, it's hard to it's really not helpful to impose your own truth on other people. I think truth has to be something that is something you educate, you're willing to stay open, you're willing to learn, but you do have to know that you have a right to your own personal viewpoint and it's valid. So I am thinking how important on islands it is to have a valid viewpoint, to know that it's valid, to not think that just because somebody comes around and has another viewpoint that it denies yours. When you see islands change when summer people come, some of that's positive because it welcomes new and alternative viewpoints. Some of it is difficult because it's a challenge to, when you're used to seeing other people as equals on your own terms, and then people come into the island, and there's some sort of a implicit assumption, unspoken, that their values and beliefs are going to supersede yours in any way, that they carry more merit, or a thought is more significant, or a vote or an opinion is more considered because of your being a seasonal person versus a year-rounder. There's some conflicts built in there. There's conflicts around the way people are doing masks in the city. I guess New York City, there's videos of people going, really kind of going haywire when they see people without masks. And everybody's fighting, not everybody, but a lot of people are getting into fight mode and considering certain things are status. Holding to a viewpoint is a status symbol. And I think that that can be effectively dealt with by just helping stay grounded in your own validity. My own choice is to do things that I've learned to do, that based on study, and I think it's important to not just abdicate my thinking about something when somebody else has a different point of view. And shaming people out of views and values is not a way to go. I remember Jon Stewart had a really helpful approach in The Daily Show. He would commonly take the practice of bringing people with different opinions on his show and be respectful to them. And they had a chance to, provide a exposure for some people who'd never heard it from another point of view. We are Americans, and that is our, we've been thrown into neighborhoods from different cultures. We're a melting pot in so many areas. Diversity has been a value. Immigrants have been valued. We've gone into a detour with some of that and been convinced against our own better interests, I think. Diversity is important. And on an island, when you do have a mix of people, each coming from a different point of view, respectful appreciation, but also value your own, where you're coming from, being able to speak to that, I think will help people feel less invalidated just by intimidation, just by being around others that are more comfortable with, coming from, like, say, a culture that has more conflict as part of it. Like, say, New York City. I lived in New York, so I know how it is, and I like New York, but up here it's not so easy to just come out with your opinion as if, you can throw it around, because people think that you're coming off of a high horse or something. You have to think about how you're coming across. So so it's important for me to know it's not that I can't say anything. It's just that I have to be respectful for how I might be received, and to invite other people into a discussion and care and, about where they're coming from, and to show that it matters to me. That's something I have to do a lot of work on. I'll admit to you, but I think it's important. So I'm expressing this because I see potential. There has been conflict on the islands around our values. The fact that we're different from other areas. I mean, somebody gets sick here, they can go home, but that sickness, it can travel around and stay here after the person's gone back wherever their main home is. So it's more of a permanent change. Who wants to be the first person to give somebody here something that would spread everywhere? And it is coming, they say, and all we can do is all we can personally do. So just, remind people that we have to continue to be mindful, and it's not pleasant. And I think certain things that we know now, we can trust, which is, as long as you're outside and you have a 6-foot distance, you don't have to wear a mask if you're not near anybody. You just have to carry one so you have it. And when you get near people, in a store, in an enclosed place, in the post office, in a car that might pass other cars, I don't know, or have other people in it, or the boat, certainly, those are places to really value other people's concerns and their fear levels, because not everybody that feels strongly can voice it. I think that's something that's almost a luxury in some places, but when you're dependent on a different class of people coming in, by and large, you got some upper class people coming into a place that has some people from the underclasses here, from less privileged circumstances, that are dependent on financially on the summer crowd, on the summer and seasonal and day trippers, renters, whoever comes in here. A lot of it's expendable income that people have. That doesn't mean that that's the case here. I just think there's sensitivity to that. While people are all changing, we're all trying to adjust to this. I think a general respect, external consideration, should carry the day. All right, that's my thoughts. Thank you for listening.